Hey, Chris Liepe here, and welcome to my channel where I help people discover their own musical voice on their instrument. Guitar, bass, singing, and recording. In this video, we're talking about why it's so difficult for guys who are guitar players to play bass effectively. And it's pretty obvious when you hear a guitar player doesn't have a lot of experience with bass playing because they play it like they play a combination of rhythm guitar and lead guitar. And it really is just a matter of listening to a different part of the music and gelling with that part of the music. Now, I am not a bass player. I have to play bass on a lot of the things I write and produce. And so I have learned to sort of navigate the bass and do what needs to be done to play an effective bass part. But this is one of the most common things that I see and have experienced in the past when I go to lay down a bass line as a guitar player. So I'd like to present to you two different bass lines. See my hand moving like I'm strumming an acoustic guitar, and I'm playing scales over here, and the notes work, but they're not supporting the music very well. And this would be an example of a guy who's playing bass, and you look over and, oh yeah, that guy doesn't play bass very much. He's obviously a guitar player who's trying to play bass, which most of us are. But in this case, if we hone in as we're listening to the arrangement, whether we're recording or whether we're playing live, when we hone in on the kick pattern and the drums specifically, and then of course keep the chord structure in mind, we're able to do something that's a lot more effective, even if we're not really a bass player. The other thing I'm going to do for now, I'm going to ditch the pick, and I'm going to think with my fingers a little bit more, so I resist the urge to strum the bass, and I will pluck the bass. So here is an example of a bass line that is more in tune with the rhythm section. It is creating a synergy between what the kick and the drums in general are doing, and it supports everything else. You notice the acoustic's already strumming. The electric's already providing that constant rhythm. It's our job to glue those things together as the guy playing the role of the bass player. So the bass on the second example is locked in much more to what the kick and the drums are doing while having a consciousness of the other layers in the arrangement. All the synths, all the things that are happening in sort of a constant way, when the guitar starts driving towards the end of that passage that I played, the acoustic guitar strumming, those are all filling certain holes in the arrangement, and the bass doesn't need to be there. The bass needs to be sitting back in the mix, sitting back in the groove, along with the drummer. So there's an extra consciousness about what the kick is doing. There's an extra consciousness about getting in that pocket with the drummer, as opposed to being a tonal instrument. I'm more of a rhythmic instrument that happens to provide tone. That's the way we want to think about a bass, especially as guitar players, because we think about things in sort of the opposite way a lot of times as guitar players. So how do we practice as guitar players, getting out of our guitarist mindset, our lead and rhythm mindset, to our glue mindset as a pretend bass player who may be actually able to do some good things on the bass? Well, how I've done it is by using drum loops. I put a drum loop on that has a particular kick pattern. I get familiar with the kick pattern, and then I just choose some comfortable pitches on the bass and practice playing rhythmically along with the loop. I don't care so much about chord structure. I don't care so much about following a song or anything. I just care about locking in with the drum loop. And of course, if you have a real drummer to do this with, that's even better. But this is a great way to practice at home. So a great starting point, if you've never done this before, is using a 4 on the floor beat, dum, 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 with the kick. And just, I'm going to choose D. It's right in the middle, and just practice hitting and muting with that kick and making it kind of groove and gel with the loop. Just hold D for a while. Maybe add a couple other notes, but you're going to be doing quarter notes on that loop. Dum, 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 and then maybe dum, 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 dum. Don't, but think rhythmically as opposed to I'm playing a scale or I'm playing over a chord. So here is a drum loop at 120, 4 on the floor. Get that in your body. And you actually want to think just a little bit behind the kick, as though the kick is leading you as the bass player, as opposed to like this. Hear that? It's a little bit more ahead. I'm thinking ahead. That's how a lot of guitar, particularly lead guitar players, think. They're ahead of the beat a little bit. They're pushing the beat. We want to be back. There's that fill coming up at the end of the loop. I'm going to try to get with that rhythm. Yeah. So I'm paying attention to what the fills are, what the groove is. And I'm muting. I'm not doing this. That's still cool, but this allows me to really hone in on the groove by practicing not only what I'm doing with my finger, as opposed to including playing the note, but I am practicing letting off in time, accentuating that 4 on the floor groove. Let's try another one. Here is a different pattern. It's going to be harder to get this one, as we know it's not as consistent. So I'm going to tap the beat out first on the kick. Okay, so there's that double thing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So if I can capitalize on that as a bass player, that's going to make our synergy better. I don't have to play on it every single time, but if I'm conscious of what that kick pattern is, it's going to help me gel specifically with what the drums are doing. Let's give it a try. I'm also extra conscious about how I'm cutting off the notes. I'm playing the note with the kick and cutting it off with the snare. Again, these aren't hard and fast rules. These are just things to start listening for and practicing as you're becoming a bass player who has originally been a guitar player for a long time. Let's try it a few more times. So there I added in a few more notes, and I played with the snare. That allowed me to sort of maintain the same rhythmic flow and feel while adding a bit of interest. Of course, there's all sorts of things you can do to react to other parts of an arrangement, but playing along with drum loops like this is a great start. Let's do a slightly more tricky kick pattern and see if we can get into it. I'm not going to play any notes right off the bat. I'm just going to try to play with the kick a little bit. Oh, missed one. Okay, now I'll go to that D and see if I can make something work out of it. Might take me a few times to really get that kick pattern in my fingers. And even if you're not going to stay with the kick pattern the whole time, having that as your starting point when you're assuming this role as a bass player, I think is key. It's really helped me out. What are we going to do about that snare? This is a lot trickier to feel in the groove, even if I'm hitting those parts. Maybe I'll go down and play a little bit lower note. That's kind of neat, adding that mute. So have fun embracing the mindset and the role of a bass player as primarily a guitar player. I hope it's been helpful to see how I've practiced this and implemented it to be a somewhat adequate bass player who is primarily a guitar player. That's my first love. I've created some mini drum-only songs that you can download for free by following the link below so that you can practice taking this further in your own playing. All of us at one point or another, if we're writing music or recording songs, we've wanted to be able to step into that role as a bass player. And this is the way that I got started. It's been a lot of help for me. Hopefully it is for you too. Let me know in the comments section below what you think, and be sure to subscribe if you like these videos. There's a lot more coming.